Saw 2 is directed and written by Darren Lynn Bosman. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, or just the name. But it's also co-written also by the original writer from the first film, who also was an actor in the first film, League Whannell. And in this film, uh, we have a group of ex-convicts who are trapped by the Jigsaw killer inside a house and must pass a series of deadly tests to retrieve the antidote for a nerve agent that will kill them in 2 hours. So yeah, after the success of the first Saw movie, a sequel to this, I mean, like, it was bound to happen. It was bound to be greenlighted, and it was. Um, Winnell and James Wan were very busy preparing for their next film and were unable to write or direct for this film to come back. But Bozeman wrote a script called The Desperate before Saw was released and was looking for a producer, but many studios rejected it. Greg Hoffman received the script and showed it to his partners, Mark Berg and Owen Callis. It was decided that with some changes, it could be made into Saw 2, and Rennell became available to provide rewrites for the script. So yeah, and the film also, one other detail is that the film was also given a larger budget that was shot. I believe the first film, if I remembered correctly, it was like I want to say like just $1 to like $2 million, maybe 1 or $1.5 million. Very low budget. But here we have like a bigger budget, which give me a second. Yes, okay, it is $4 million. So they got a little bit more. They got an extra $3 million for the budget to be spent upon. But yeah, so if you guys don't know how my movie reviews videos, go, I break it down into the positives and the negatives. And obviously, no shit, there's gonna be like spoilers for this film. All right, I'm gonna be spoiling the shit out of this movie. This movie's been out for like decades, for like I think well, let's see here. It came out. What year did it come out? 2005. So yeah, it's like nearly 2 decades. Well, actually, just 2 decades in general. December is like technically almost, I mean, it's mid-December as I'm recording this, but whatever. It's 2 year. It's been 2 decades, excuse me. It's been 2 decades, so you guys had 2 decades to watch this movie. All right. I will say this, going into the positives, the story is, is still intriguing and still full of suspense, kind of like the first film. There are some good acting in this film, especially from Donnie Wahlberg and Tobin Bell. I mean, Tobin Bell is John Kramer and the Jigsaw Killer. He is that character, and his acting is really good. And Darren Bowsman's his directing skills, being brought into the Saw franchise, I thought was pretty good. He did a splendid job with that. And let's consider this film, and let's consider this film, excuse me, was his directorial debut. And the film's non-linear narrative plays off perfectly, like in the first film, being less confusing but more deceptive. Amanda Young, a minor character from the first film, returns here in a much larger role. I do know that Amanda is a very lovable-ish, hate-ish, character. Some people have like a love-hate relationship when it comes to Amanda. I feel like the character. Um, it's always good to see her popping up here and there. But yeah, this film does contain, it contains and focuses much more on the characters than the first film, which mainly focuses on the two men. I believe Dr. Gordon, and I want to say the other guy's name, who's also League, the guy who wrote the first film and also wrote this film. They it was his character. His name was Adam. I want to say Adam. Part of me wants to say Adam or some name with the letter A. I know the character's name starts with the letter A. But anyway, yeah. The world building is impressive. Jigsaw's new traps in this film are still creative and realistic. Being the needle trap, the most memorable. God, like, all right, I gotta tell you guys something. Like, I've never seen any of the Saw movies. I remember the first time I was introduced to like the Saw movies was like a Watch Mojo like top 10 list of like the most horrifying Saw traps or something like that. Something horror, scary things, scary content that involved the Saw movies and the franchise. And they talked about the death traps, and that one of them they mentioned um uh the needle trap when she had to like her hand had to go up and find the antidote, and the antidote was like in this glass box, and it was like, oh, like, oh, both of her hands were like stuck in the needle trap just to get the antidote. Oh my god, it was, and yeah, I had to look away. I had to look away. I don't deal with that kind of shit, man. Unlike the original film, the Jigsaw Killers, but yeah, after I watched, but yeah, backtracking a bit, yeah, after I saw like the top 10, like all these YouTube videos talking about the Saw franchise, I finally had the guts and the nerves to sit down and like watch all of the Saw movies. And yes, I did look away from all the graphic imagery that was showing on screen because I don't deal with that. But yeah, anyway, continuing on, unlike the original film, the Jigsaw Killer's motivation and backstory are basically explored and explained here in a satisfactory way, in my opinion, showing us what situation led him to adopt his radical philosophies. There's also some well written dialogue, especially dialogue that is spoken out of Tobin Bell and John Kramer. The film's pacing is good. I didn't feel very bored. I didn't feel bored or like drag. I didn't feel like the pacing, the runtime was dragging. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. The film's quality may be even better to the first film as it counted with a larger budget. Maybe the budget had something to do with it. Um, you know, Introducing, new characters. Introducing like like now they have like a large characters and they have all these creative ways to like execute literally, with their with all these the dialogue and the script. You know what I mean? But yeah, there are some references to the first film, like the location of the bathroom, which was very nice to see. Um, and fans will definitely be happy with that. Like certainly was. Like the first film, it contains an amazing plot twist at the end, which reveals that Amanda Young was Jigsaw's accomplice all along. That was crazy. When the first time I watched this movie, it like took me by surprise. The soundtrack is still good. By Charlie Clouser. The classic the classic Saw theme song. And there are some good dialogue here as well. Such as those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life. Going into the negatives, I will say, depending on your view, not my view, but for your view, this film can come off as unnecessary, as the first film didn't necessarily leave any cliffhangers, but it's still a decent continuation to the story set in the first film. Jigsaw can seem a bit delighted at some points, which can leave one confused or with a bad taste in the mouth, as this can crash with his supposed desire to help people appreciate life by physically harming themselves and putting them in these game traps, these death traps. No, fuck the games. They're all death traps. Just like the first film, it can be very gory, as some people may not like excessive gore. So, like me, like I had to like look away from some parts of the scenes. It's just too graphic. So there's that. But other than that, I thought this was a nice, solid continuation of the Saw from the first Saw film. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for Saw 2. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time to listening to my review, my thoughts. Please like and subscribe. Definitely subscribe because that would help me out a lot. I appreciate that. I'm thankful for that. I love you guys, and I'll see you with Saw 3 uh, in my next video. So yeah, peace.